is Landed in Leadership and Enlightenment, a podcast where the guests are exceptional humans that have faced their fears to crest into their best selves, growing into a way they can help their communities, creating opportunities, and sharing their secrets and their tips that they learned along the way. Without further ado, here we are, my friends. Have a great time today and enjoy Leadership and Enlightenment. Andrea, this is going to be a cool conversation, my friend. It's been a little bit since you and I talked.
I know, it's been a bit. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Thanks for
it's,
having me.
of course, ever since you joined the team, you just brought this fresh of a bright air to us. And I love how you grabbed on and started running with it.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it's a great team, honestly. It's what's made it, I'd say, I don't want to say easier, but it really is. This team has been phenomenal and really supportive. So it's been a fun ride so far.
Where were you at before joining us as a broker?
So I was with Marriott the last about 8 years. And then before that, I was with Hilton. I was with an independent boutique properties, but overall 15 years in hotel sales. And then the most recent was Marriott.
Sweet. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
I mean, before we
Great.
jump into what you and I really want to talk about, which is the excitement of being an entrepreneur, let's talk about a little bit where you came from. Where did you grow up?
Sure. I grew up in upstate New York. I lived there and went to college in a small town called Oneonta, New York. So a small state school there. And then after graduating, moved to Florida with my now husband. And we were there for about 3 years, got married, and decided the heat in Florida was not for us. And we missed family and the Four Seasons. And so I said, okay, I want to get back up north, and kind of played around with where we were going to go. Both of us came from the upstate area. So we were like, well, do we want to go back home or to try somewhere new? And my brother had been in Michigan for quite a few years. He went to college out here and then settled here. So we said, let's try Metro Detroit. So we moved out here in 2012 and been here ever since. So this is home now.
Wow. Ahead of
Yeah.
the curve from what I'm
Yeah,
hearing. I
right?
mean,
I know.
you guys are like, it sounds like you're the most exciting place to live in the United States right now.
It feels that way. It's really, I mean, when we came here in 2012, it was already on the upswing. It was growing. It was starting to come around from, what it used to be and what it was for some time. So seeing it now, though, it's just incredible. It has grown leaps and bounds. So yeah, it's really exciting.
What pulls you into working in the hospitality industry? I have my own kind of snippets of why I think it gets us, but I'm always curious.
It's funny, I fell into this by accident. I went to college for business economics, so very broad, had no idea what I wanted to do. Right after college, like I said, we went to Florida, and I quickly realized business basically meant sales. There wasn't a clear avenue for me. So
Yeah.
did a couple different things. I started actually at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. They had a huge
Mm-hmm.
management training,
Sure.
program. So jumped into that, very sales focused. Quickly realized I did not love that, but had to figure out, okay, what's next? Oh, my husband and I, we got engaged. And so we started planning our wedding, and I had booked it at a Hilton Melbourne Beach down in Florida. And I was working with the catering sales manager on, coordinating the wedding, and we were chatting. And then in my head, I'm like, geez, this seems really fun. You can sell weddings on the beach, and wow, this is so exciting. So I threw out the question to her, just like, hey, do you ever let someone shadow and just see if this is an industry they would like? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. But we actually have a catering sales position open. Why don't you apply? And I'm like,
Awesome.
well, I was like, I've never worked in a hotel. She's like, yeah, but you have sales and you have a personality, and that's all it takes. We can teach you, everything you need to know. But you seem to
Yeah.
have, what it takes. So that's how I started. And I started
That is
working
so
as a
cool.
catering sales manager. Yeah, it's
So
great.
it found you. You didn't
It found
necessarily
me.
find it. I
Yeah.
felt the same way. I was at the Golden Nugget, what seems like 1,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I had been in restaurant business. And at the time, I had just sold my deli, and I was just trying to figure out how to get my feet back in some stability. And I started working at the Golden Nugget in Vegas, which is like the kiss of death. If you work for a hotel, you're never going to leave. You'll be there
No.
forever. And I was running restaurants for California Pizza Kitchen. And I just was so curious about this banquet thing. I didn't understand it. And I asked the director of food and beverage, like, hey, can we look at this a little bit? And he's like, you don't know anything about it. I'm like, I'd love to learn. He said, all right. So he takes me out to the pool, and I see the first time a pool deck turns over from people swimming to a high-end food extravaganza. I mean, it blew my brain. I couldn't believe all these factors had to come together like a Super Bowl halftime party and put it back together for the next day. I was in hook, line, and sinker from that point on. I knew, like, this touches these parts of me that make me feel right, like I'm tuned in, and I love to joke that I think the hospitality industry is full of people that are neurodivergent. We're all on the spectrum, and for some reason or another, hospitality and event planning kinda fits all that mold, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It really does. It's an exciting industry and it's one that you don't I was just talking to somebody this morning about it actually. I'm like, it's an industry that I almost think a lot of people don't even realize exists until they have to plan an event or they're traveling for work or they start to see it personally, but really dive into it. And so I really never even thought about it. And I was early on in my career, obviously, so still learning everything. But it was like, oh, this is a whole industry in itself. And then
Yeah.
I mean, even when I took the job, it was like, I don't even know what I signed up for. I don't know what's catering. What am I mean, food,
Right? Yeah.
but like, oh, I worked the corporate market. I ended up doing some socials, so doing weddings. And then that's just another, component is figuring out what avenue is you, what fits what you want to do. Is it social or is it the corporate? So,
Yeah.
getting
Well,
to
stay there
experience.
for a second. Let's sit
Yeah.
on that one for a minute because 'cause I'm right there with you. I got my chops in catering too,
Okay.
and I believe catering gave me this background that a lot of people don't realize is in the industry because you're in a sales role. You have to sell food and beverage, but you have to sell it in a way that isn't right out front in front of your clients like they know you're selling. It's a
Mhm.
suggestion, a nice little way of saying like, "Do you wanna pass food because you're gonna have long lines?" Or, "Can we get an extra bar in there?" Or maybe there's a cocktail we can pass that happens to cost twice as much as everything else. But all these things, they kinda teach you from the inside out how the operations world works, how a P&L really aligns, and what it means to be in a business model that needs to make money. And that's the part of the industry I think is really hard for a lot of clients to understand is like that hotel is a business
Mhm.
and it has a model in it that has to have an outcome of some sort of profit. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. And we're bringing business to these hotels in our business and we have to make sure we've qualified that we understand that it is a piece of business that actually could make sense for that hotel or that destination, that we've done that headwork so that those partners of ours in the hotel industry realize like they're not going to have to chase us down the road to find out there's really nothing behind it.
Right,
And so
right.
I find that it's really interesting that you found the same thing that I found was a comfort in that side of the business. And then it grew you into a sales role. Did you end up
Yeah,
working in sales as
so
well?
yeah, and I think, going back to, starting catering, I feel like that really we talked about, like, lays the groundwork, and I think starting catering really helps you understand, yes, it's a business, but it's like it also drives the passion because you see when that piece of business comes in, it's allowing that banquet team to work that weekend. It's giving work to our housekeepers. It's keeping the front desk going, and it's like it's what the impact of this business and what it means to the hotel. So it just for me, it drove so much passion behind it, and like, okay, if we fill this weekend, everyone's working, and and it's
Yeah.
bigger than yeah, Marriott makes money, and Hilton
Yeah.
makes money, they're fine, but it's like at a property level, what the impact is for business and what type of
Dude,
business.
I
So
just got shivers. That's an
yeah,
amazing
well,
statement. Yeah.
when you're there, you're on property, you're working with these people, and it's just yeah, we work off a salary, but they're most of those are hourly employees. So when you don't have business, there's no one working. So it just that's where my passion came in. I fell into it, but that's where I really like fell in love with what I did because I saw the impact of it from our side of it. And then of course, when I was doing social, you see the impact and the happiness and the joy from your client and the end result of what it brought. So you got really the firsthand look at events and conferences and whatever your segment was at that point. I feel like it really laid the groundwork and then grew from there. But
Yeah.
yes, to your original question, yes, the next step was going into group sales. So I
Mm.
went from the catering side to then group business, so selling the guest rooms with the meeting space.
What'd you find moving into that department was a different feel from catering, how you helped the hotel? What kind of traction
Yeah.
points were you offering?
Well, the biggest thing, obviously, back when we were doing it was heads and beds. That was like, that's the bread and butter of the hotel. How many, the largest piece we can get and how many rooms. And so that was a whole new area that I had never, in catering, you're not really doing guest rooms. Your
Right.
focus is simply the banquet space. So learning that side of it and realizing what an impact that makes too in a completely different way as well. So yeah, just having to learn, what the room nights bring in, the ratio from room nights and the amount of space that they can take, and that's a whole learning curve too, and that's a
Yeah.
lot of what I think we apply now for our clients and educate them on is understanding, rooms to space ratio and room patterns and how it affects how the hotel works for that week and how, if you have a pattern, Monday and Tuesday, great. Or if you have Tuesday, Wednesday, you're kind of blowing out the rest of the week for that
Right.
hotel. So it's really
Yeah.
interesting to learn what's a good piece of business and because not all of them are. It really has to
Yeah.
make sense. So that was the biggest learning curve for me when
And
I
how to position that business so that you could speak to
right.
that client and help them understand like, hey, a small shift here, a small shift there, and we can make this work. You could be supportive in our world and we'd be supportive in your world.
Right.
Well, a lot of people never really leave the hotel side.
Mhm.
It's a comfortable life. I went through the ranks of a waiter all the way up to executive myself. And when I got to that last spot, I found myself in a place where I realized like I could do more good if I was to go out and kind of venture into a career for myself. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. But you also face that same question. So tell us a little background behind it. Don't jump in too quick. We want to hear some of the struggles of how you made this decision.
It was a struggle. I will start off by saying I am a risk adverse person. I am not somebody who easily jumps into something that's risky. I am always 10 steps ahead with a plan of, okay, this is how it's going to work. And this is not that. So I would say probably the last 6 months of my career with Marriott, I started to just feel a pull. Like this isn't, I don't know, it's just not fitting right anymore. And at the time, I was working remote, which was real, kind of a newer thing for the hotel world in the last 10 years. But working remote, so I had fairly decent flexibility. I have 2 young kids, so I think the driving force right there was my kids. I
Hmm.
wanted to be present. I wanted to do all the volunteer work. I wanted to go on all the field trips. I want to pick them up from school. And I was doing all of that, but I was spreading myself really thin because I was
Hmm.
also making sure I was right back to the computer when we got home and, working late because I had to make up the work I missed during the day. And I had a great leader and I had a great team that understood, but at the end of the day, I put the pressure on myself too. So I was spread really thin and I just thought to myself, there's got to be another way to make this work. There has to be a way to do something that I love, but still be present for my children and my family and my husband and, all the things in between. The other side of it too, I kind of started to feel like I hit like a ceiling. I hit
Mm.
not with opportunity, but more so like my expertise and how to apply it and make an impact.
Hmm.
I think a lot of us in the corporate world, especially hotels, you get put in a box. This is your role, this is what you do. You kind of stay in that lane. And there's not really a creative aspect to it. And I also started to feel like there was this wall up between hotels and intermediaries, third parties like us
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
even the client sometimes, there was this
Hmm.
wall. And it's like we were sitting at the opposite end of the table, but we all wanted the same outcome. And it's like, why aren't
Yeah.
we working together? Why aren't we just talking with our clients and educating them or working with the third party, working with that meeting broker and just talking it out? And I just felt like there was such just like butting heads and just a wall.
Yeah.
And I thought, I want to get on the other side of this and bridge that gap and bring everybody together. I want to educate our clients because not that they lack an ability to book a meeting, but to understand the why behind it. And like we were
Hmm.
saying, the pattern, what season are they booking in? What type of, space are they requiring? The rooms to space ratio. There's so many factors that go into it that a lot of people don't realize, especially if that's not their day-to-day job.
Yeah.
If you're not a
For
meeting
sure.
planner and you're, let's say, an executive assistant or a marketing coordinator, you have thousand other things on your plate and
Right.
probably higher priority things to handle. So when you get thrown a meeting, you might not know how much those factors impact what bid you're going to get and how great your
Yeah.
concessions will be and things like that. So
No, it's
I
so
just
true.
started to think like, okay, there's got to be something else. And that's kind of where I reached out
Let's
to.
slow down there for just a
Yeah.
second because I gotta say I had the same scenario happen to me, and I've I've had enough time to look back on it now to realize like it was part of the process and the evolution of me personally in the career that I was in. It wasn't not having a need anymore for where I had come from and what I'd learned, more than understanding, like you said, I hit a ceiling of some sort. I realized like I didn't want to grow in my leadership role because those responsibilities and duties of those leaders were not my passions. They were all the completely different alignments to what I had grown up in the hospitality industry, what I had noticed as well. And that happened too as an executive in my office. A lot of times reviewing contracts for my clients and for my team's clients, I would notice that one client got a deal and another client got a different deal. And the
Mhm.
only difference between those 2 deals was one client didn't know how to ask for what they needed. And it wasn't even something, small or like something that was mysterious. It was just they didn't know how to talk about what their conference was. They didn't know how to create the image of it. And I find a lot of times in our business that we're calling hotels and giving them the image of what the client's expectations are. And we're able to paint that picture in a certain way, like a Picasso back to them, because we understand their business. And I use this term, I speak hotel language and I speak client language. And somewhere in the middle, I put those two things together. And that was what was exciting for me when I left too, is I realized like, hey, I can help. I can make a difference out here. It's exciting to think that your input could actually create, like you said, employment for, people back of the house or in front of house in a hotel setting, but now it could also help a company grow. And I've had a
Mhm.
couple situations where it was pretty detrimental for them. They bit off more than they could chew. They barely got through it. I had to help them out the tail end on their attrition side, but it almost was a place where company was going to go away because that formula wasn't put in the right place. And we were there, you and I, in that kind of a role to help that client once again go back to the hotel and create the picture and the image of what the future of this company is going to be if this is the direction we're moving in, and how can we partner together to grow and grow into the future together, because there could be other business behind this too. And so for me, all of that became like part of this equation that I had this ability to see through, kind of like writing code for a computer. I think you definitely had the same experience set and you could see that you were going to do something with that. And
Mhm.
so now you've jumped out, you've
Yeah.
left your company and you found Meetings Made Easy. How did that happen?
Through social media, through LinkedIn. Actually, I did, though, on the hotel side, I did work with a few of the brokers on different RFPs that had come through for my particular hotels that I sold. So I worked with MME on, with different brokers, but MME's presence on LinkedIn is, unmatched. So I just kept seeing Mike and all the team coming across my LinkedIn, and something just, pushed me to say, you know what, just reach out. Like, it can't hurt. My mom would always say, like, just ask. The worst they could say is no. So I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been following that for a long time and it's never failed me. So I said, I'm going to do that, and reached out to Mike, and we just had great conversation, and we laugh. I saw
Wow.
him today actually. And, he's like, I let someone approach me because this is a tough business. And he's like, and when I talk, I'm really honest. And he's like, and I couldn't scare you. I kept trying and you just kept pushing and pushing. So it was a great conversation. And it's what really jump started this whole thing. Um,
Yeah, he has a way about him, almost clairvoyant. Like he could see into the future and he could see
yeah.
into your future. And as you said, obviously there's a lot of work to developing yourself. And that's the craziest part, is like you'd think it was tools and skill sets, but it's actually developing yourself. What are some of the things that you had to learn about yourself in the beginning, kind of getting into this, that you was kind of shocking to you, that you were like, whoa, I didn't realize that about myself.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was just I had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You jump into this and you leave a corporate world, you leave structure, you leave goals, all of that behind, and then you sit down and it's like, okay, now what? You have to find your clients, you have to get out there, you have to market yourself, you have to create a brand. MME has the brand, everyone knows them, but how are they going to know me, and how are my clients going to want to work with me? So learning how to use social media in a different way. I
Yeah.
always used Instagram scrolling through, but I never posted myself, maybe
Right.
a picture of me and my family, but never a video of me. I never. And so when I was
Right.
like, oh, I have to do this, I have to
Yeah.
create content, and I have to get out there and talk to my clients. So that was very uncomfortable for me at
Oh,
first.
I bet.
It was
Yeah.
not it just wasn't my nature to do that. I can talk to anybody face
Yeah.
to face all day long. I love it. I love interacting. I love building relationships, but to do it in your phone and then throw it out there, it was a very scary thing for me. But as I started to do it, and Mike had said something before, and I know he said it probably to a lot of people, is you have to stop caring about what people think. Just do it. Your
Yeah.
stuff. You have to be confident because, like you said, we have the skills. It's just get out there
It's
and
marketing.
share what you know. Yeah. And so I started doing it, and then I started to see it working. I'd engage with people, or I'd meet somebody, be like, oh, yeah, I know you.
Yeah.
Maybe I saw
Yeah.
your social media, or I saw your LinkedIn, and I'm like, okay, it's working. It's
Yeah.
really cool just to even start the conversation. So that was surprising. I was like, "Oh, I can do this." It's
It's
just,
so
I gotta get a little
cool.
uncomfortable and
And
take
you're
the
great
risk.
at it. You're great at it because you created the understanding that's marketing, not
Yeah.
sales.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the fear in the beginning of social media comes in, is you think you have to do something that's going to create sales.
Mhm.
It's really just all marketing. And marketing for me was something I had to learn too. I mean, when I left the hotel industry, I joke, I was so old, I had a beeper and a Blackberry still. I just didn't, I had no use for it. I did, like you said, I mean, that was something my wife did. What was that for me? And to actually understand, the marketing behind it and realizing the value of the human connection and creating human connections and being, a hub of referrals where we can connect other people. It really started to grow on me like, oh, this is way more than just marketing too.
Yeah.
This is about trading energy. This is about trading energy in a different way than we were used to trading energy. And I always tag it as like it's the building without walls. You did the same thing when you used to walk into your hotel every day. You talk to the same people, you say same nice things to them. It's social media. That's LinkedIn. That's literally commenting on somebody's post. It's the same way. And then when you build a relationship or a friendship, connect on a Zoom or something, that's like sitting in somebody's office and chatting for
Yeah.
15 minutes that you didn't know before. You're not looking for anything out of it, but you do get
Yeah.
this ideal of who and what this community is about and how to be there to help them. It's pretty
Yeah, and
exciting.
I think the biggest thing is, like, it's just to get the conversation with people. It's not about the sale. I mean, my thing is you build the relationship and the sale will come if it's supposed to. It either way, you've built a relationship, you're expanding your network, and that's what really matters because eventually it'll happen. But yeah, that's my goal with it is just to I always say to people when I'm talking, whether we're emailing or messaging through LinkedIn, it's like, can we just jump on a call? Because it's so much easier to talk about what I do, have it
Yeah.
make sense, and
Yeah.
just see if there's a way to support that
Well,
person.
and can you agree that in that setting, you're trading energy on that call with your voice tones and
Oh,
your
yeah,
inflections,
body
where you're
language,
you're
everything.
learning a lot about each other in that scenario, that
Yeah.
we have to move past that social media stuff to get to that,
Yeah.
regardless in the process. But it is about becoming comfortable with understanding who we are and why we are, and in that whole idea. And you've made it through this now. Like you're actually you've got your pieces together, your model's working. And how long have you been into this business now?
Think 8 months, going on 9 months now? Yeah, so
And
I'll
you're
be
making
yeah,
2-year strides already.
thank you. Yeah, it's we were t again, I was having the conversation today with some of the team, and it's like I was talking with a hotel that I used to work at, and they're like, "How do you like it now?" And I'm like, "I love it." I'm like, "The first few months, it's like, what am I doing? Oh my gosh, why did I leave the hotel?" Then it's like, "Oh, I love this. This is so great." And then I'm like,
Yeah.
every other day, it's just a roller coaster. And I was like, "But it's exciting." And it forces you to just get used to being uncomfortable, take the risk, and just keep pushing. You gotta keep pushing forward, and yeah,
I
I
wanna
feel
reinforce that part of your journey, because from what I'm seeing on the outside is there was a lot of things that fell in alignment for you to be in this role you're in and give you some training for it.
Mhm.
Hospitality industry, obviously, the way you fell into that, that seems like a little interesting that it was on your wedding and like you're channeling this energy of a great day and you end up finding the job of a lifetime down the road. Those
Yeah.
connections seem a little too mysterious to me. The other, that you ended up working remote for Marriott.
Mhm.
That created a lot of pattern sets for you that you were able to take into this role and know what working from home is going to feel like, and have that, some people go through that emotional withdrawal of like, I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah, and
Like,
I think
is this an impact?
if you're leaving the hotel, if you worked on property and you jumped right into this role, never working remote, it's a whole other aspect of it that you have to figure out.
Yeah,
Because
I
when
had to
I
go
moved
through that.
property to remote for Marriott, there was about a 6-month window of trying to figure out, like, how to make this make sense. Like,
Yeah,
do I need to tell someone I'm on? Like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm
right.
logged in for the day." It's just simple little things like that, about 6 months. So that I at least had the advantage of understanding how to work from home. I knew how to set
Mhm.
my schedule, and I had a clear understanding of that, but that's a good point. It
Yeah.
really that's a huge adjustment too.
Well, and then there's a technique that you use that you brought out right from the get-go when you met the wedding planners, that you asked if you could shadow.
Mhm.
You were willing to invest yourself into something before financial gain.
Mhm.
And that to me is like the third pillar of realizing what an entrepreneur mindset is. You've already described everything up to that point. And I got to say that whether you agree with me or not, something around you loves you enough to put you in this path to end up where you're at.
Yeah.
And how can you even put words to how big that is around you, allowing that to happen. And we've talked about some struggles in this conversation today. I'm going through a couple myself with my mother, hitting some later years and, just having to play along and understanding what that means. And it's become very critical for me to realize like the human spirit needs time to heal and to grow.
Mhm.
And if we limit that time, we create stress. And so if we can find a way for us to accept our learning curves, accept, how we're growing into our life, and we look back, you could almost say to yourself, like, it takes 8 months to get comfortable with something. And it
Absolutely.
takes it takes 3 years to get to a place where you feel this way. And being at the fifth year myself, it's a maturity that you go through and you realize like things are going to happen to me. It's not going to be a straight trajectory going to wherever this top part is. It's going to be up and down and up and down and up, just like it always was.
Yeah.
How do we become comfortable with being uncomfortable about that and realizing that it's working for us? And my latest thing is like, do 20% of the diligence and then allow 80% of it to work within your life. And that doesn't mean just sit back on your hands and watch it happen. You still got to show up every day.
Mhm.
But when you show up, you're showing up in a different frame of mind. You're absolutely allowing all of the experience to be a part of your growth, all of the creativity, the learning, and the joy of it. And for me, this is the definition of being an entrepreneur, of
Mhm.
understanding what a self-employed person is like it's somebody that's working on themselves, not actually working on their tools as much as most people would think.
Yeah, that's very accurate for sure. It's very eye-opening, and you start to really I think for quite some time I had, they say it's imposter syndrome, am I really good at what I do? When I was
Hmm.
on the hotel side, and am I doing this right? Yeah, I'm hitting my numbers, but I don't know. For me, I doubt myself more than anyone else. My husband was one of my biggest supporters with doing this. My family, I mean, everybody was like, "You can do this. Are you crazy? You'll be great at it." And I'm like, "Really? Are you sure?" And
Yeah.
then you get in it and you're like, okay, I can do this. And then you start, little things start to happen and you're like, okay, I can do this. I need to be confident. I need to step out. You have those skills and you just have
Yeah.
to figure it out. And yeah, I do. I agree with you. I felt like that push to leave the hotel world, I knew some of the reasons why, but for me, I'm really firm in my faith and I really felt like that was God pushing me to just
Yeah.
take the leap, just do
Yeah.
it. Trust
Yeah.
me. And that's hard. That's really, really hard to do,
It
especially for
is.
I'm a type A, like I said, I'm 10
Hmm.
my plan, and this was probably the first time, besides becoming a mom, that I didn't really have I can kinda make a plan, but I don't know what's gonna happen, and I just have to take it day by day and
Yeah.
just jump in headfirst and just
And be the
trust that
best you can be.
that's it,
Yeah.
and just do the best I can and trust that this is the path I'm supposed to go down, and we're gonna see where it takes me, and,
It's so true.
I've gotten here, and I've gotten here okay so far, so I think there's he points you in the right direction, and I think that's where I'm
Yeah.
going.
Well, I tell you, you are doing it. You don't have to think about it anymore. Mike said that to me in the very beginning. What do you mean, Dean? You are a broker. It's just a matter of the acceptance. And this is, I think, the value of this conversation is realizing anybody out there that's really wanting to start or take that jump because they feel that push, be prepared to realize like there's nothing about it that's going to feel comfortable. And if you want it to happen right, you got to burn the boats and you're going to realize like you got to see whatever happened before this in your life as the precursors for this now life that you're in, not an extension of where you used to be. And that's, there's a struggle there in releasing and letting go from all that. And you did that. You were natural, or at least you were built in a certain way where your spirit within you was strong enough to realize this. And I think that for me is my strongest take as well. It's like understanding that something out there is working in our benefit for us. We
Mhm.
can't see the future. It can.
Mhm.
And we just need to trust that our daily efforts are in this alignment, that these things are happening. And then when you give it enough time and you can see the reflection of it, I can't describe it from my side anymore. It wasn't a big paycheck or a big client. There's so many little things that built up for me to look back one day and go, I'm actually working for the universe. This is incredible. I don't know how all this happens, but I do know when I wake up every day and I put my head forward in a way that is embracing this and leaving those lanes open. I mean, it's incredible how it connects for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like you said, it hasn't been one big thing. I've gotten clients and I'm busy and it's great and I'm meeting people and I'm networking, but I just feel like little by little it starts to click and it's where I'm supposed to be, and I love it, and I
Wow.
love
Y-
what I do. I
You're,
love the team, and it's the time I've had with my kids and my family that has been the biggest payoff. So that
yeah.
for me was like, that's what's worth it. So
Well,
it's been good.
you're invaluable to your clients. You're priceless, my friend. Leave the
Thank you.
audience with one thing that you think that they would appreciate if they were in the thought process right now of thinking about their future and like maybe in a couple of years I might try that. What
Mhm.
would you tell them that they should do now?
I guess if it's something I mean, it's no surprise we work off commission. So, I mean, financially, you have to make sure that that is something you're comfortable with. Everyone says give it a year. It's tough. You're building your book of business. But if you think you can do that, and it's just more so your fear that's stopping you, if at all there's interest and you keep going back to it, just do it. Just take that leap. And that's coming from someone who very rarely does that. I promise you.
Yes.
That
Yes.
is not me. That's more so my husband, and make sure you have support around you, people who really support you, because I lean on them all the time to help because I'll doubt myself. I said it before. It's like it's easy to go, "Am I doing the right thing? Am I actually good at this?" And I've
Yeah.
gotten better. I've gotten better and not doing that, but when they are turning around going, "No, keep going. Keep pushing. You've got this. You've got to give it a year." Whatever the time frame you give yourself, but give yourself a time frame. Say,
Yeah.
"This is what I'm going to do. If I'm going to jump in, I'm going to jump in head first, and this is
Hmm.
the time frame I'm going to give it." And then when
Yeah.
you get to that point, reassess and see if it's working because it might not be what you thought it was, or it might
Yeah.
not be the right fit.
Yeah.
Some people prefer the corporate world, and I did for a long time. I liked the structure. So this is tough. It's totally different. But I think
Yeah.
jump in head first, give yourself a time frame that you're really going to put the effort in and wait to that point to just say, okay, let's turn around and see how that past year went or 6 months or whatever that time frame is and just do it. Just stick it out and keep going.
I love it. Self-reflection is definitely the strongest suit. All right, my
Yes.
friend. I'll have it in the show notes, but tell everybody how they can find you. I know you've got some clients out there listening to this that are going to be calling you for that next booking.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, obviously, but my email is ahanson@meetingsme.com, and then on Instagram, it's the meeting broker. So hopefully we'll connect. Yeah, I'm
It was
excited.
amazing talking to you. I can't wait to catch up later in the year, and
I
we'll
know.
see where things have gone from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, good seeing you.
Well, there we go. Another amazing example of the universe working in its magnificent way today. Appreciate you showing up and look forward to seeing you again at Leadership and Enlightenment.